Near mint condition, the home of collected editions. Oh my gosh, look at that panel of Batman. You have the absolute, you have the deluxe. DC Comics firing on all cylinders.
What steps inside of the hollowed house of everything? This is a look at the DC Finest horror, The Devil's Doorway, on near mint condition. What's going on, everybody? My name is Dom of X, NMCM, and CR.com-E, and today we are going to be taking a first-hand look at, again, this specific trade paperback, the second of the DC Finest genre collections, if you will, and also the first of its kind in the horror genre. Here is a look at the front of the book, the cover encased from Neal Adams himself. Yes, the legendary late Neal Adams, from the issue 84 of House of Secrets. And by golly, we have a lot of those types of covers in here. A look at the spine, we do have the DC Finest horror, same overlay, if you will. And then on the spine, we do have the 1969-1970 with a pinup appropriately of Kane. Yes, that Kane from DC. And then not to be confused with, of course, Cassandra. Here is a look at the back with the same featured covers as per usual, and a front hand timeline from the issues or the years 69 to 70, in this case, along with the synopsis as well, with highlighted tales such as Siren of Satan and Diary of a Madman. Let's go ahead and get to it. Let's start to flip through the DC Finest horror, The Devil's Doorway trade paperback that we have here on our hands. And this is a look at the inside cover. Of course, The Devil's Doorway, just one of the many stories that you will find in here. And the pinup here is drawn, if you will, by Gil Kane, from one of my favorite stories by far, I would definitely say, in this trade paperback. On the left-hand side, we do have the editorial information, publishing information, and also restoration information. This time, Bradford Johansson, Nick Lyons, and Bobby Timoney behind the hands of the black and white and color restoration from that specific team. We have the editors Joe Orlando, Dick Giordano, and Murray Boltinoff. We might have seen in definitely many other titles as well during this time period. And still over at the Salisco printers, we do have the table of contents here on the right hand side, and as you can see, they do have this all appropriately listed due to the fact that this is indeed an anthology series. So you will be getting multiple stories, if you will, from every single issue that you have on here, from the Witching Hour to the House of Mystery. They also have here the credits for every single one of these stories, at least if they do have them on hand. Some of them, as you may know, might not have the colorists, might not have the specific artists that you might be thinking of, but they do still all have that here as much as possible. And again, I wish that it was consistent throughout majority of the DC Finest lines, including Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Those credits I found lacking. And again, you will see on the left-hand side that they do still have the warning for those who are reading this that, yes, there is still, despite this book coming in, some outdated references and also material that, if it were published today, would definitely not be allowed by any of the publishers on hand. Anyways, that is the panel that I was talking about earlier in the cover. Now, what is in this specific DC Finest trade paperback? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is a 560-pager DC Finest, still $39.99. I keep forgetting to mention that every single video, but this also does have the House of Secrets issues 81 to 85 from the 1965 run, of course, the House of Mystery issues 180 to 185, the Witching Hour issues number 3 through 7, the Unexpected issues 113 to 117. I would definitely say also one of my favorites, and a story from the Phantom Stranger issue number 5. And by a story, I do mean literally just 2 pages in from the Phantom Stranger issue number 5. This material has only been reprinted in the House of Mystery Bronze Age Omnibus, as that has previously come out before, and I believe it is also one of the volumes is also getting a reprint. And along with that, we do have the Showcase Presents House of Mystery, also that being printed in thereof. Now, all of these other issues that I had mentioned, including House of Secrets, The Unexpected, Phantom Stranger number 5, and also The Witching Hour, have never been reprinted before, and this is, again, just from my outside research, but feel free to let me know if any of those might be incorrect. But at least as far as what I have looked up, a lot of this material, at least 3/4 of this book, has never been reprinted before. Now, what are you going to expect from this specific trade paperback? Is it consistent? Are the stories here just aged out? What exactly are you going to be looking here in the pages of the Horror DC Finest? This is the first time that I have ever been exposed to pre-1986 titles from the horror line of DC Comics. And I say this in specific because I've never ever delved into this era of DC Comics before. I've never really had a major interest in their horror titles. I was always, if there was something that I was looking forward to, it would definitely have been more so from along the lines of what we saw in the DC Finest science fiction portion, partly because I prefer that as a genre, and also because characters like Adam Strange and Captain Garrett are from those titles. I don't really have that many connections in here, aside from maybe Swamp Thing, but even then I've never really had the intuition to actually go out and read a good amount of these stories before. So this is my first time really just getting into the material and figuring out, well, what's in here, what can you expect, and are there any specific characters that pop in from time to time? And by golly, I am happy to say that you do indeed have those characters. We do have 4 specific books in here, or 4 specific titles that are mainly collected, again, with the prime exception of the Phantom Stranger issue number 5. And House of Secrets is one of them, and we do have the character Abel, who is a part of that story, and he is the housekeeper. And yes, it is that same Abel from the Bible, Genesis 3, I believe, where it is half of the brothers or the first offspring of Adam and Eve. The same goes for House of Mystery, and as I mentioned earlier with the spine, we did have Kane popping up on that side, and he is the specific housekeeper of the House of Mystery. With the Unexpected, 2 that we follow from here, at least in this book, we have the Mad Mod Witch, not to be confused with Mad Mod from Teen Titans, that pops up in all of those issues. But not only that, we do have Johnny Peril, who does pop into issues 138, or the first 2 issues that are collected inside of this trade paperback. And then the Witching Hour, which probably has my favorite trio of the set, or the 4 that I just discussed earlier, which are the witches, the 3 witches that we get introduced to, which are all drawn and illustrated by Alex Toth, which are the characters Cynthia, Mordred, and Mildred. And their purpose in these books is to introduce the reader to the expectations that they will have in these specific stories. What are they going to do? There is sometimes a wheel. Like, for example, in The Witching Hour, we get introduced to the 3 characters, and they spin a wheel, and that wheel spin determines how the stories inside of the book are going to be written and how they are going to be told. And the same goes for plenty of these other characters. For example, Abel and Cain have their respective introductions. They have these short 3-4 page stories that really just set the stage for the reader, and also set the stage for what is going to be unlocked in the secret mysteries of, or the secret, well, I guess it's a double word, right? But you do get the understanding of what these stories are going to be entailed with those specific characters. And, well, every single story in here is so different, to the point where I do believe that the strength of how different these stories are actually makes this not just an enjoyable read, but also one where it never felt at any point that I was being overboard with long amounts of text, maybe in the same way that some of those 50s and 60s Superman books. We're definitely getting to even the 30s and 40s Superman as well. You are going to get a plethora of different types of horror in here, whether it is the body horror, the shock horror. You have some characters who just flat out pass away in the book, but you also do have stories where it is pure fantasy. Fantasy that doesn't end up well for our characters, but fantasy in the way that I am reminded that it definitely feels a lot like Conan the Barbarian. There really is no other way to explain it besides you have a hot guy, gets a horse, helps people out, and something happens to them. And you also get in this mix of stories characters interacting with other characters, sometimes in other different books. So for example, Cain and Abel might not just be in their one specific book. They might actually go to other stories where they are being a part of the character's introduction and saying, wait, my book has better stories than this person's book. And it really is the rivalry and also the way that these characters are propped up that actually do not only just set the funny moments, but it requires all these 4 different books in one way or another to outperform themselves against the grain, and outperform themselves in the way that encourages the reader to continue on, despite the fact that maybe having 5 or 6 stories in, well, maybe they might be burnt out by the end. But at never at any point in this book did I ever have that feeling of, oh my goodness, I can't. I have to stop. I need to go on and read something else. I actually had a much easier time reading this than some other of the Bronze and Silver Age stories that I have read through the DC Finest line. And not only that, we do have I'm just an amazing list of creators who have worked on this book. And I mentioned Alex Toth earlier, and I mentioned Gil Kane earlier, but you also have Kurt Swan, Wally Wood, Sergio Aragones in on the art. Bernie Wrightson, who obviously would go on to be a big elemental part of the Swamp Thing. Mike Sikowski, who we saw from the pages of Justice League of America. We also do have Dick Dillon. And Neil Adams, who also pencils in an issue or two, along with the covers that are just grand and majestic, and also very, very straight to the point. I don't know if I've ever really read any other book that has had these covers feel so much just a part of the tone setter, that it is the definition of you get what you get with each story. You ever feel like I'm being ripped off at any single point in time. Al Williamson gets a couple of words in here, and also Jerry Grandinetti. I had never heard of this before, and by the way, this diploma is probably one of my favorite parts in the book. But Jerry Grandinetti, who draws a handful of some of the stories in here, including one from the House of Secrets that just every single panel is, it feels like you're actually caved in to the house that you are drawn into. And by golly, it has made me a fan. I had never heard of him before, but now my eyes are propped up and I'm saying, okay, what other Silver Age, Bronze Age books has this man worked on? Because it has absolutely just been splendid. But not only do you get some of those stories, you also do get a handful of all-text stories, as it is still the Silver Bronze Age, and they are still they're still very much a part of the comics atmosphere at the time. One of my favorite stories in here, I have to list off a couple of them because, of course, this is a DC file. What am I expecting? What do I prefer from these stories? I definitely have to say that the story where Gil Kane is trapped in by Editorial saying, hey, you need to work on this page, you need to work on that page. I definitely do feel, and I can understand now how some artists definitely feel across deadlines. And I really, really am glad with the way that the comic industry has sort of progressed over the last couple of decades. But I definitely did feel his pain and agony in this specific horror story. It definitely feels autobiographical. And if anybody actually has not had a chance to read it, it definitely reminds me of Chip Zdarsky's Public Domain. I definitely do feel like they have a lot of the same tone. There was one story where a man falls in love. This was set back thousands of years in the past with this incredibly beautiful Egyptian a goddess there set in Egypt, but she actually stored herself away because she was far too beautiful. She kept setting, or accidentally setting, curses on people. But there was one person who was about to be married to another person, and he said, well, I want to experience what this true beauty feels like despite being tied with another person. We're also dealing with a lot of interesting stuff here, whether it is, yes, the occult, the supernatural, but my personal favorite of those, at least in dealing with, it definitely has to be the story where they are actually set during the Salem witch trials. I didn't actually know that DC had the galls to allow their creators to set up something like that, but alas, that was definitely one where it made a lasting impact on my psyche. I remember reading it right before class, and I said, have you ever seen anything like this? And then, of course, Sergio Aragones does have the game room. There are plenty of games that you can actually play in this as well. There's a spin the wheel, there's a board game. Sergio Aragones does draw these incredibly funny and sometimes cute, even if a little bit dark on the edge, stories, if you will, where they are just straight panels that feel like they have come out of a newspaper. And I have really found a way to enjoy not only these stories, but if you held Katana's sword to my neck and forced me to pick between this or the DC Finest science fiction trade paperback, I do much prefer science fiction as a genre, but by golly, I cannot discredit or de-recommend. This would be my number one pick. If you had to make me pick between either this or that, I would definitely pick DC Finest Horror, The Devil's Doorway in a heartbeat every single time. And I hope you guys do too, because this has definitely been not only a nice surprise, but definitely one that you should check out, as there is no extras in the back, just a simple 560. And that is that. Now, if you want to check out The Unexpected, The Witching Hour, and The House of Secrets in these specific line, please check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code Near Mint Condition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more.
And that is going to be it from me. I am Dom of X. Please let me know down in the comment section if you have read any of these stories, if you have actually planned to check any of these out. And I'll see you all next time. Please stay safe, everybody, and have a good day, Minties, wherever you are.